in the dog days as we wait for training camp. So we got a couple things, not even a couple, a person to talk about here on the Under Center podcast, presented by St. Xavier University. As we broadcast virtually from the NBC podcast studios, you see our Bears beat reporter right there, Alex Shapiro. Tony and Claire are running the show, and Josh is out. We're going to focus on Bears head coach Matt Eberflus and the fact that he's running the defensive side of the ball. Does that bother us? Does it not bother us? And of course, the odds with him leading, you got DraftKings having him at plus 900 to win Coach of the Year this upcoming NFL season. So we're going to sit on that. Tony wants us to talk about past Coaches of the Year and the lack of success after winning. And that's, of course, former Bears head coach Matt Nagy, who's now the offensive coordinator with the Kansas City Chiefs once again, quote unquote. How you doing today, my guy? What's going on, Alex?
I am doing marvelously. Had a wonderful holiday weekend. Went on an extremely spontaneous concert evening to go see Thundercat at the Salt Shed, and he was incredible.
Really?
It was one of those things where my buddy texted me like, "Hey, is anybody at the Thundercat show?" And we're like, "What? Thundercat's in town? What? Can we go right now? Should we get in the car right now and go? Let's go!" And it was phenomenal. He was great. So
how much were tickets?
I have no idea what they were face value. Let's just say I met a nice gentleman outside. We did a little wheeling and dealing, and we came to a very reasonable agreement together to catch the show.
Gotta love that life that Alex is living out in the streets. I like that. There's nothing wrong with some good Thundercat music to kick off your holiday weekend. So that's definitely a great weekend. I was under the weather. Family and I caught COVID coming back from a vacation. We had a terrific cruise a week or so ago, and everybody got sick. So we're back. Everybody's pumping right now, so we're good to go. All right, anyway. Matt Eberflus being the odds-on favorite to win Coach of the Year. Plus or negative, Alex, you have a lot of talent that's been amassed on this team by Ryan Poles, which is really the reason. Are you bringing in what we think should be a stud at quarterback and wide receiver to go along with also adding Keenan Allen? So right there, let's sit it right there with Matt Eberflus, odds-on favorite at plus 900 with DraftKings to be the upcoming Coach of the Year for the NFL season.
I mean, I don't really view it as a positive nor a negative. I look at it as a betting trend. And if you look at the Bears and what they've done, and if they do make the playoffs, which they can, he probably will win Coach of the Year. When you take a look at what this team was 2 years ago, the improvements they made over the second half of last season when they finally got a pass rusher and finally got healthy on that defense. And then if he does lead that team to the playoffs, he's going to be up there in the Coach of the Year conversations. So I look at it more as a betting trend. I don't necessarily think it is a good thing or a bad thing about the football team. I guess maybe a good thing that nationally expectations are raised. Some people think expectations can hurt a team, but Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze aren't running away from those expectations. I don't believe the Bears should be running away from those expectations either. High expectations are, in my opinion, a good thing. It means that you've done good things to put yourself in a position to succeed. Now all the Bears have to do is improve and execute and win some football games. So no, I don't think they should be running away from those expectations, but I don't necessarily view betting odds on Coach of the Year as any good or bad thing, really.
I'm going to go with it being a good thing, because if he was last, I think that would tell us a lot about what prognosticators feel about the Bears' upcoming season. So I'm going to go with it being a positive, but also, and it's funny when you're talking about, it's just betting. Let's stick right there, because you have Jets head coach Robert Saleh and, of course, the Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh, who's returning to the NFL at plus 1,100. The Packers head coach Matt LaFleur plus 1,200. Raheem Morris and DeMeco Ryans are both at plus 1,300. So the thing, and I want to focus on this with this. The Bears won 7 games last year, right? I don't know if 2 more games, let's just hypothetically say the Bears win 9 games. Alex and Josh both, when we did our impromptu records this year, I had them at 10, they had them at 9 and 8, right? I don't know if 2 more victories shoehorns you in when you look at what the Chargers may be able to do, with Jim Harbaugh, if they have a good season when there's only Kansas City, really, when you're talking about in the AFC West, you're looking at, and just think about how bad the Jets were with the injured Aaron Rodgers. If they get 8 victories and look good in that market, to a degree, I don't even know if the Bears should be its favorite because of the Bears' record last year. Like, the Bears will have to either offensively, or let me not say offensively, they're going to have to be really good on one side of the ball and kind of like more hot than cold on the other side of the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, something is going to have to really stick out nationally, because this is a national story, right?
Yeah.
So of course, if Caleb Williams takes off, right, and has a crazy season, I think then, and he's not the offensive coach, but just because he's the head coach, Matt Eberflus will win the award. If the Bears have a good offense, but the defense plays to the level that they played last year after they brought in Montez Sweat and he really got gelling with this team, if that's indicative of what the whole season will look like, and Matt Nagy is the defensive coordinator and the head coach, that could set him up, even though offense turns the dial with everything. We know that's how the rules are set up, so it's always a tad bit more important. But I think that it's not as easy as the bettors may have it, because the Bears' record won't look as crazy, or lopsided is a better way to put it. Lopsided compared to last year, when you're looking at some teams who may have only had several victories and could end up with 8, 9, or 10 victories that could really take off and take this award. But go ahead. You were about to say something. What were you about to say?
No, I wasn't. But I do agree with you. 9 wins is not going to get it done. It's got to be a playoff appearance, in my opinion, because a 2-game improvement, that's, again, kind of what you're expecting baseline as the floor. You have gotten Caleb Williams, who is supposed to be the guy to turn things around. You have added Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen. The defense was ascending, and you're returning almost all of those starters. Yes, you added an all-pro as one of your replacements on that line. There are just fewer holes on this team. There are fewer question marks on this team. And we've talked about the number of question marks, right? What's going to happen at center? Is the interior offensive line going to hold up? Will Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright continue to ascend as young players, right? I mean, like, every team has questions like that. But it's not like before, where you're going, who's going to rush the passer? Who's going to play CB2? What's the deal with the linebackers? And what's the running game situation going to look like? And who's going to catch passes? And, it just went on and on and on. So with the fewer questions, it feels like the floor is improvement. So anything, it's going to take more. It's going to take more than 9 wins to get this done.
Look, and add to that the fact that the bottom half of the schedule, the last 8 games, are difficult. If the Vikings are the same team, the Vikings who also had 7 victories last year, if they just not even take a step, they're just healthier at the quarterback position this year. All right, we could just say just health. If Sam Darnold is average but healthy, when we talked about ad nauseum here, when you're talking about arguably the best receiver, second-year player in Jordan Addison, that's Justin Jefferson, the best receiver, Bears killer in Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, nice tackles on the offensive line. If you just look at that 8 games, and let's just say the Bears win 3 to 4 of them, and at the end of the season could really tell a lot as far as, hey, what have you done for me lately? I think that's the real problem with the Bears, or I should say Matt Eberflus winning the head coach. And I think this could be a problem with the Bears season for the fans, where they may start off and have a really good record at the beginning of the year, but how hard the back end of the year is, it may make a lot of people feel like this season was worse than perhaps what it was. I will say this. I'm not creating an excuse when I say that, because no, we still have to see how they play. If it's a situation where these teams are better, when we're talking about 2 playoff teams that could have made it to the Super Bowl, and the Packers and the Lions, the roughest team in the NFL with one of the best offensive mind with the 49ers, a capable Seattle team, It may leave us with a foul taste in our mouths at the end of the season when we were riding high at the beginning of the year. And I think a lot of the voters, when it comes to those end of the season awards like head best coach of the year, are going to look at that, and that'll be a reason why and it also could lead to what I was talking about earlier. While these teams that play on the coasts, referring to, of course, the Chargers and the Jets and Jim Harbaugh and Robert Saleh, could end up could end up earning that award.
Right.
Stealing, because it's ours. No, I'm joking. But they could end up stealing that award because the Bears may not finish as well as at the beginning of the year. But the flip side is this. I could sit there and say what I just said, and this is football and there's parity. That's just facts. This isn't me trying to play Mr. Nice Guy when we're talking about the Bears season. This could be one of those years where the Bears start off good and we're like, yeah, but when's the shoe going to drop? And the shoe technically really doesn't drop. They may have, and Alex, you've said this in the past, they may have one of those games where like, how the hell did they lose to them? That's football. So they could have that, a game where it looks like the Vikings definitely should have lost to the Bears and the Vikings pull it out. We know that with the Lions, how that can go. A lot of times it looks like the Bears have their numbers. They've been fortunate enough to pull a couple of those out. The Bears have won some of those. But the flip side could be where the Bears could improve in the second half of the year. They could still be a good team, and that could end up helping Matt Eberflus win that award as far as Coach of the Year.
Absolutely. I think this kind of came to mind as you were talking. We're talking about improvements and 2 wins or a playoff berth and all of these measures of improvement. And I wonder if, we should be looking at, just in the past, the Bears found ways to lose games they should have won, right? During that terrible losing streak over the beginning of Matt Eberflus's career, they were in games. There were so many games that they should have won, and they just found ways to lose. The Broncos game, Lions games, Vikings game. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on about it. The Bears should have won. They found a way to blow it. And then towards the end of the year, they won some games that they were supposed to win, right? You're supposed to win this game. They finished the deal. Now I'm wondering if the next step is, can they win some games they're not supposed to win? Can they play the spoiler? Can they make that crazy fourth quarter comeback? Or can they go up against a team that's really tough, like the Los Angeles Rams, like the San Francisco 49ers? You talked about stealing the award. Can they steal a win from one of those really good teams on that schedule? And is that a measure of progress? Going from, here's a team that not only loses every game, but loses games that they're supposed to win, to, okay, maybe they're still losing against tough opponents, but they're winning the games they're supposed to win, to now, hey, can they win a game they're not supposed to win? Can they win a game where all signs are pointing to a big L? And that's really what separates, in my opinion, a lot of good teams from great teams. When a great team can meet that adversity, match that adversity, and then overcome it and still come away with a victory. I mean, how many times have we seen that with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, where it's just like they're doomed, right? They're down 2 scores in the fourth quarter, 10 points with 5 minutes. It's not going to happen. And then, no, they just find a way to win. They just always find a way to win. And obviously, I'm pointing to the Chiefs, who are, dynasty, the class of our contemporary NFL world. But that's what you want to measure yourself against, right? You want to measure yourself against the best. So if they can do some of those things, maybe that's like, okay, now this is really a team that has continued their ascension.
Don't tease me with baby goat comebacks. I'm not even gonna let that dance around in my brain until we can actually see what this quarterback does in the pros. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm rooting for Caleb. I was down with the move, but he still has a lot to prove and a lot to learn when you're talking about the professional NFL football. But I think something that you said really does speak to them winning. If they can knock off a team like the 49ers, who nationally, if healthy, both teams are fully healthy, most people are definitely going to choose the 49ers. to win, particularly where they're getting up against the cap this year when you look at the contracts of Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuels, and they have to make a choice with, what they're going to do with the amount of money to spend. And also it's time for the quarterback now to get paid. If they can do something like that, and also speaks to finishing out the season strong, yeah, I would say that Matt Eberflus definitely has a much better chance of definitely winning it. I think that's a great point that you made right there. I was thinking about something too, and this is more of a con about why he may not get that award, and it goes back to 2018 when Matt Nagy won it for the 2018 season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing that may be against the Bears in a way this time. Now, I remember me and my partner, we were just about to, I don't know if it was our first time sitting in for Les Grobstein, RP Les Grobstein, sitting in for Les Grobstein on the score. But they made the trade for Khalil Mack like that day, the day before, the day of, because we was like, man, what are we going to talk about? It was like, right? But in saying that, the Bears that year, Vic Fangio, the season prior to 2017 season, that defense finished in the top 10, the bottom half of the top 10. We had started to see like, they may have something with this defense, right? Akeem Hicks had really started to show that he was a disruptor. We knew what they had. At linebacker, they were nice when you look at Danny Trevathan. And then, of course, we had a young rookie that was going to be coming in and join the team, and they had a nice defensive backfield. But in saying that, I don't think people knew, one, initially the offense with a young Mitchell Trubisky was going to have its moments. You know what I'm saying? And they were going to get to that record that they ended up getting. Because that's really, if we really look at it, the record outside of it, the low expectations, the record is what stood out and was like, whoa, we didn't see them getting double-digit victories or something like that. Compared to right now, when you're talking about Matt Eberflus and what the Bears have, there's a lot of people that either expect the Bears to be better or expect that they will have improved by the talent, but perhaps the record may be a bit much with them with the teams that they have to play. That's kind of, and I'm saying that people really aren't giving them much landing space to surprise them, I guess was what I'm really trying to get to it. So people are going to be like, either the Bears are good, look what they did in the offseason, they should be better. You know what I'm saying? Or it's going to be where I told you, it's going to take a minute. You can see improvements, but still it's not enough. It's going to take a minute. I think that's going to perhaps be more of the narrative nationally, or maybe even here, depending on how I shouldn't just make this a whole national thing. It could be how we view this team, depending on how the season shakes out.
Yeah, I think a key difference, and this goes back to our conversation with Jason Leisure we had a few weeks ago. If you haven't listened, go back, listen to our interview with Jason Leisure. It was awesome. Key difference between the Matt Nagy Coach of the Year thing and a hypothetical, purely hypothetical Coach of the Year campaign for Matt Eberflus is Matt Nagy was riding that defense. I mean, you said that offense had its moments. It also looked extremely not good at times.
Yeah,
it was never a moment where you're like, this offense is rocking and rolling. Nah, it was like, okay, if they can score 21 points, the defense will hold them to 20, no problem. And offense was Matt Nagy's side of the ball. Right. Now the defense is still rocking, right? I mean, that's really the motor for this team. That defense played exceptionally well last season. There's a lot of talk about them being top 5 this season. And that's Matt Eberflus' side of the ball. That's at least his bread and butter, right? He came in here to, one, fix the culture, which so far it seems like he's done. And then 2, get that defense back on track. And that defense is certainly back on track, and his fingerprints are all over it, right? I mean, acting as the defensive coordinator last year, all the scheme changes he made. We talk about him being a Tampa 2 derivative kind of guy, but all of a sudden he's dialing up blitzes. He's bringing pressure. He has them playing dime on third downs, playing to the strengths of his defense. He was doing some different things, and it worked. So that's at least where it's like, okay, at least he has shown that he can take care of his side of the ball. Of course, the offense is going to be so important. This team will not succeed, or go the places they want to go if the offense doesn't make strides. but it's not like he's riding Vic Fangio's coach. You know, he's not going to be riding Shane Waldron's coattails to a coach of the year. Like his side of the ball, he's got under control.
Let's stick right here, all right, with him being calling defensive plays. All right, I'm not going to disrespect his defensive coordinator. With him calling the plays, your thoughts? How do you? And it's funny because I was going to go with, we talked to Jason Leisure about this from the Sun Times, of course, friend of the show, and he discussed the time splits and how clearly when Eberflus became the head coach here, he talked about spending an equal amount of time on both sides as far as the defense and offense. And we heard about him being in the quarterback room and everything like that. And he clearly probably can't do that with trying to still keep his job. I mean, like, that's still, like, that seat is not ice cold by any means. There's some warmth under that seat, particularly how the season starts off. You know, this season goes bad early, there will be people calling for his job because people will say, let's get him out of here and not infect Caleb and the rest of these young players. But your thoughts on him being his time splits and him being the defensive coordinator along with being the head coach?
Well, it's clear that he wants to be the CEO. And in a perfect world, your head coach probably is the CEO. But I don't think it necessarily needs to be that way. I mean, I'm going to kick it back to the Chiefs, who are the class of the NFL, and how it works there. Andy Reid is running that offense. You know, Steve Spagnuolo is running that defense, is kind of my understanding of the situation. Now, obviously, I'm not in the room, and I'm sure Andy Reid is involved with the defense to some degree, but like, when you think Chiefs defense, you know it's Spags. So I think it's possible that Matt Eberflus can focus more on the defense or put his energies into the defense and let Shane Waldron cook on offense, while of course overseeing it a little bit. And you know, Eberflus is in every quarterback meeting. He's in the offensive meetings. It's not like he's an absentee offensive guy because he's so busy doing defensive coordinator stuff. That's not the case. But the key is Shane Waldron has to be the guy, right? If you want to set that up, Shane Waldron's got to make it work. The Chiefs are able to make that work because Spags is so good at his job as one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. So if Shane Waldron is the dude and it's working, then like, yeah, I don't have a huge problem with Flus spending more time on the defense. It becomes a problem when the offense doesn't take the strides. I mean, look at the last Bears Super Bowl. The 1985 Bears. That was Buddy Ryan's defense. Like, nobody's worried about Ditka not like having his fingerprints on that defense too much. Nah, it worked. Ditka ran the offense. Buddy Ryan ran the defense. It worked great. They won a Super Bowl. So, again, it just has to work. Shane Waldron just has to be the guy. It only becomes a problem if the improvements don't come.
Side of the ball, Ditka coach prior to being the Bears head coach?
I don't know. Special teams? I have no idea. That's a good question.
You hit it.
I hit it. That came from the recesses of my gray matter somewhere.
All right. This is something that you said I want to revisit. And again, you're not saying this to be fact. You're just talking about what's been talked about. Do you believe that this defense can be top 5 this season?
Can they? Yeah, absolutely. Will they? We'll see. But they have all the talent. They have tons of continuity. Yes, they can. Like, their ceiling is number 1 defense in the league. There's nothing stopping them from that. Whether or not they realize that potential is obviously a different thing. Like, things happen. Injuries are random, and they happen. There are question marks. Can Jervon Dexter take that step and be the disruptive 3 tech that they need? Who's going to step up as the second pass rusher on the edge opposite Montez Sweat? But they have all the talent in the world up and down that field. We're talking about very small holes and very small question marks. And again, the continuity matters, man. They are returning so many starters. They're not learning a system. They know what to do. Eberflus knows by this point everybody's strengths, weaknesses, and they can just, I mean, honestly, they should just be firing They should just be firing on all cylinders from day one, as long as they stay healthy.
I think a lot depends on, as far as being excellent. All right, I think there'll be a really good defense this year. But as far as top 5, because when you're around top 5, you're talking about the cream of the crust. We're not even talking about top 10. We're talking about one of those D's. All right. Javon Dexter has to really be good. I'm not even going to say great. He has to be really good, consistently good. If he's consistently good, then yeah, I'm with you. I just have to see that, because I do believe that there are going to be lulls if this defense, if Montez Sweat is the only him, if he's the only Himothy in this situation, and there's not, there's not a guy, like if this was like a singing group and you have, of course, the lead singer, but then you have that other guy that can really go alto, and like that guy, he gets his own single every third single that drops on the album. He usually gets his own song. If you have a guy like that, right, then yes. But if this is really, if this is really the lead singer, you hear the lead singer's voice doing the background vocals. There's nothing worse when you like, wait, he's doing the background too, and he has and it's like, so he does not need them, or she does not need that. And that, if you look at it like that, then I think there will be issues with them being top 5 if it's just Montez Sweat and the Sweatettes. You know what I'm saying?
So is Montez Sweat Beyonce?
No, he can't be Beyonce. Well,
he
okay,
can't be
it depends
Beyonce.
on how you feel. It depends on how you feel about Kelly. I'm pro Kelly, right? But at some points, Kelly wasn't. I'm gonna go old with y'all right here, right? And this is before any of our time, right? There's a saying on a Snoop Dogg album. It's like Harold Melvin without the blue notes. That it should never go platinum. And I'm bringing up Harold Melvin because Harold Melvin in his band had one of the greatest soul singers of all time, Teddy Pendergrass, right? So you would have and there was another guy in the group that could sing. It was a light-skinned brother with a fro, all right, could hold a note. If you gotta have the light-skinned brother with the fro to hold the note, if we're gonna be able to pull this off, is what I'm trying to tell you. Like you're gonna need somebody compared to just a group where really the lead singer is everything. And again, I know I went off course here, but it's still just, to me, that's my only worry. And when you said top 5, and I look from your lips to his ears, I hope it's fact. But I don't. That's lofty expectations. I also, Alex, I wonder now where you have a defensive-minded head coach is running the defense, and we've heard this throughout the years. We knew Lovey was like this, whose preference, Vic Fangio was like this, whose preference isn't to bring the heat, also known as blitzing, right? But we saw how Matt Eberflus was adaptable last year and started to blitz to get more pressure because they were getting beat on the backside. Because regardless of how good these DBs and linebackers are, there's only so long you can cover someone.
You can't cover forever.
You can't cover forever. And that's when you were talking about the amount of talent they have, and I agree with you, but most of that talent is after Montez Sweat is linebackers, DBs on that line. Again, I hope that I'm wrong and that you have young players on the defensive line. We've talked about it ad nauseum here. Justin Jones isn't here. And I know some people don't take that as being serious, but Justin Jones was a difference maker once Montez Sweat joined this team. And particularly from a position that you need in this cover 2 defense when you're talking about the 3 technique. And that's where, getting back to, we're talking about, and Alex was a starter, but Javon Dexter being really important, how he performs this year and take another step. We talked to the defensive line coach and the co-head coach down in Florida after they drafted Javon Dexter, and he talked about it's going to take a minute, but now we're at that minute. They talked about the things that they had him do at school. It wasn't what was going to make him a really good player in the pros, and he has to learn that. Now he's had a season to kind of, and you said for Matt Eberflus to know him, to know his lights. Everyone says he looks great at minicamp and everything like that. But I just, that to me is the question mark, because you can have the Legion of Doom, the Legion of Boom all you want, but we always forget that they had guys up front. You had Bennett. You had several guys. My mind is at a blank, but you had several guys that were getting to the quarterback on top of them having an excellent defensive backfield, talking about that old Seattle Super Bowl victorious team.
No, for sure. It's going to take, it's such an old football cliche. It's going to take all 11, but it's going to take all three levels of the defense, right? We saw it at times last year when it was just the back two levels that were performing and those front four weren't getting it done. They had to make changes. Whether it's Montez Sweat doing it all himself or whether it is Montez Sweat and somebody else, or better yet, two other guys, it's going to take all three levels, the front four, the kind of middle tier, the CBs and the linebackers, and then obviously the lid of the defense, Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard.
And then, okay, last point in something you said, and that was, of course, the defense was the motor. It was the catalyst for the victories that they got last year. They got a lot of talent. And the funny thing is, when you look at like how they move money around, they put a lot of money now on the offensive side of the ball, right? In either draft equity or you look at trades that they've made, right? The last 2 years, they brought in 2 receivers via trade. So with that being said, do you think the entire year the defense will be the motor, Alex, or at some points will it have to be the offense? Because you don't add this much talent on the offensive side of the ball if you don't think the offense is going to sometimes carry the day. On top of that, you're not playing in, like, this isn't the 70s NFC North where there's, Walter Payton and the Purple People Eaters, this is these teams, when you're looking at what the Packers can do with their receiver core, you look at what the talent that the Lions have. We talked about the talent around whoever is under center for the Vikings. So at some point, defenses will be scored upon, is what I'm getting to. And you're going to have to catch up and surpass the opposing teams points-wise if you want to get a victory. And compared to past seasons, the Bears have the weapons to where you think they'd be able to pull it off. It's really Shane Waldron and them putting it all together, which will let us know really how far they'll go this season.
Yeah, absolutely. At some point, the offense is going to have to be the reason the Bears win a football game. They're going to have to carry the load. And again, that's just every good football team. Some days the defense is going to do it for you. Some days the offense is going to do it for you. And sometimes when everything goes right, everybody's clicking and you blow a team out, but typically that's not how it goes, right? Usually one kind of phase is leading the way. So the defense can't do it all season long. The offense is going to have to figure it out. And I mean, again, to bring it back to 2018, the last time we were having Coach of the Year award conversations, that is what prevented the Bears from improving on 2018. That's why 2018 was a flash in the pan. Because when the defense, relented, they kind of got older. Vic Fangio got a head coaching job. Things change, and they weren't that elite unit anymore. The offense couldn't pick up the slack. Mitchell Trubisky didn't develop into the guy for a variety of reasons. Matt Nagy struggled to put together a winning formula, a winning identity that, consistently worked. And when the offense couldn't pick up the slack, when it just became clear this was a one-dimensional situation, that defense, it fell apart, right? And they were a one-hit wonder. So if the Bears want to not only realize their full potential, but then also not be one-hit wonders, if they want sustained success, both sides of the ball need to come to the party. It can't just be that top 5 defense. That offense is going to need to consistently put up points. And when the defense doesn't have it for whatever reason, a guy's hurt, Justin Jefferson has a crazy game because Justin Jefferson often has crazy games. The offense is going to need to pick up the slack, right? If the defense gives up 30, the offense is going to need to score 35. And that's what great teams do. Again, that's what great teams do. They pick each other up.
All right. We will be back, of course, this Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. on NBC Sports Chicago. Please tune in, everybody. I hope you had a safe holiday weekend and nobody got hurt, and definitely continue to keep your ass safe. We always appreciate you taking a little bit of time with us to talk a little bit about the Bears and, of course, some football. Everybody have a great one.
Congrats, you finished the video. If you want to build on that success, download the NBC Sports Chicago app. It's got highlights, exclusive insights, and push alerts tailored to you. Everything you need to be a real Chicago sports fan. Download it now.